Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Property Management 101, and for today's video, I'm going to be reviewing with you 10 essential things that you need to include in your resident lease. This video will actually be a two-part series that I'll be providing. This is the first video of the two-part series, so please be on the lookout in the near future for the second part on this topic. I always recommend having a local attorney and your in-house counsel review any lease or any lease edits before issuing that lease to any residents or applicants. You also want to make sure that any suggestions that you receive from this video or any local attorneys, that all those practices still fall in line of your company's policies. If they don't, that's something that you're going to want to meet with your in-house counsel to possibly make suggestions and edits to your processes that fall in line with what is going to be required of that local area. Regardless if you're starting from scratch or if you're auditing your lease to make edits or updates, you want to make sure you have these 10 things at least in very good detail. The first thing you want to make sure that you have as part of your tenant's lease is security deposit information. Many states have very tight regulations when it comes to managing security deposits. Some states will require they be held in an interest-free account, that it'll have to be labeled a certain way, or in a lot of situations I've seen that you may have to disclose to that resident where their security deposit is being held, financial name of that institution, as well as the address of where it's being held in that resident's lease. You also want to provide information as far as when their security deposit can be used and when it can't be used. This is a mistake I see quite often from residents, that they feel that it's almost as a savings account they can tap into at any time if they're short on rent or other things. And this is something, as we know as professionals in the industry, that is not true. They're very heavily regulated as far as when we can tap into and when we can't. So this is something you're going to include in this section as well. The second essential thing that you want to include in your resident leases is information about the lease terms that the residents are signing for. So you're always going to want to include the start date, an end date, and if you're going to offer, or if it's required to offer, a month-to-month term after that resident's current lease term expires. So this is something that you also want to include in this section, how the resident is going to give notice and what are the steps to this process. So a lot of states and areas, the resident may be required to give a 60-day notice, meaning before their end date of their lease, if they decide they're not renewing, that resident's going to give to that landlord in writing notice, meaning, hey, I'm giving notice that I'll be moving out. This is actually one of two areas I would recommend including what are the steps residents need to take to give proper notice. I hope you're enjoying this video so far and learning something new. If so, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for future videos. The third essential thing that you're going to want to make sure they're included in your residence leases in good detail is their rate. So you obviously want to include the reoccurring charge for their rent that they'll be charged during their tenancy of that lease term. But you also want to make sure that if they're moving in mid-month and you're charging them maybe a prorated rate to start with, or maybe on the back end a prorated rate, that this information is included as well in this section. So you also want to include information too, is if the lease term does default to a month-to-month, what will that month-to-month rate be? Will it be $200 higher, $300 higher? Will they be notified with that rate change prior to the end of their lease? What are some of those things going to include if they decide or elect to go month-to-month? The fourth thing that you're going to want to include in your residence lease is the late fee. So you're going to want to include how they would receive a late fee, as far as if they don't make a payment, how long do they have? Do they have a grace period? For example, many states have a 3, 4, or 5 day grace period. That is, the landlord, you're not allowed to apply a late fee. What will that late fee amount be? How many late fees will they receive, or will that change? Some states have it capped where it's limited. Some states have where they can build it up. Also, if they elect to continue not to pay and receive late fees, what are the potential next steps? When, that's something to list as well, that, hey, this may start the eviction process. So that's another thing you're going to want to mention in this section as well. And the fifth thing that you're going to want to include as far as essential things to include your residence lease is a section that outlines responsibilities of that resident. You're going to want to include everything in the section that the resident will be responsible for. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this is the other section that would also include steps to give proper notice if they decide they are not willing to renew. I know some of you may be asking the question, isn't this a little overdone when it comes to giving notice? Because you were already mentioning it in the lease term section, and we're going to bring that up again here. And my answer to that is yes, it is necessary to include it in both sections. And the biggest reason why is this. You want to make sure that you do not allow a resident to become a holdover and not give notice and not have a situation where they're moved out. You want to ensure that they give and understand the process of giving proper notice to give you and your team the most amount of time you can to pre-lease the unit and prepare for that move out. So it's really important because this is something I often feel that it's missed from residents where they forget to give notice in time, and you really want to be able to bank on, hey, we list an outline of multiple parts of our lease, and it's going to make it that much harder for the resident to miss that. So this is something I would include in this section as well. Also, here are some other things I would list as responsibilities for the resident in this section. You're going to want to include information like utilities, cleanliness, parking, keys, pets, noise, additional move-out steps outside of just giving notice, inspections, work orders, and getting a hold of someone after hours. And for a video recap today, keep in mind these 5 things that should be in every single one of your residents' leases, again in good detail. You always want to include your security deposit information. You always want to include lease term information, rate information, late fee information, and a section that goes over responsibilities of the tenant. To ensure you catch part 2 of this video series, please make sure you subscribe and turn on those notifications. And if you enjoyed this video and you learned something new, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for the future videos. If you have not done so already, I would highly recommend watching my disclosure video as well as my why I do this video. I will provide the links to those videos in the description. And if you haven't connected to our LinkedIn or Instagram page, please make sure you do so to follow industry news, polls, and video releases. If you have any questions about this video or any of my videos, feel free to leave a comment. I'll be happy to address it for you. Happy leasing! Thank you very much for watching my video until the end. You're the exact type of person that I really want to offer this out to and collect their feedback on. If you have any topics that you're struggling with as a property manager, as a regional, or another staff member in the property management industry, please feel free to send me a message, or you're welcome to leave a comment to any of my videos with a show idea you'd like me to review. I do have a list of show ideas already that I'm working on, but I'm always interested in hearing more as far as what individuals are looking for or struggling with. Please allow me to kind of help you through and maybe offer some ideas that you didn't consider before. So again, thank you for watching the video. Really appreciate the feedback and the time, and let me know how I can help you. Have a wonderful day and happy leasing.